Hello and welcome. This is Adusman. If we are required to calculate difference between two dates for any of our calculations, the formula that we are going to use is date difference. The date difference formula is a very simple formula that takes three arguments. Let's see the syntax first. In date difference, the formula takes three arguments, the date one, the date two, and the interval. The date one is the start date, that is the beginning date between the two dates that we are comparing. The date two is the end date or the latter date. And interval can be anything between, let's say, second, minute, hour, day, month, quarter, or year. And we can specify how we want to see the interval. If the date one is smaller than the date two, or if the date one is earlier than the date two, then the result of the date difference formula is a positive one. Logically speaking, the beginning date should be before the latter date or the ending date. But if the date one is after the date two, then the result will be a negative one. Let's see this formula through an example. In this data model, I have got dates of birth and dates of joining of different employees and broken down between departments and their genders. Our objective is to calculate the age of the employee at the time of joining the company. For that purpose, we need to calculate a measure, and I'm going to go in the report view and let's create a measure. I already have a measures table. I will call this new measure. I'm going to calculate the average age of employee on joining, average age on joining. And for this, I'm going to use formula average X. The average X formula would iterate over the employee table and it will use the expression of date difference, where I'm going to put in the first date as the date of birth, the last date as the date of joining, and the interval would be year. I will close the bracket for date difference, and then we need to close the bracket for average X. Let's put this value in our table visual and see that the average age of employee at the date of joining is calculated over here. I can use this average age and I can break it down between different departments and according to the gender. Let's put this same measure in this new visual. And now we have the average age of each of the department's employees according to their gender, male and female. The total age, average age is 34.83, which is the same over here. And we can see further information by gender and by department over here in this visual. We can also calculate the average age of the employees as of now. And for that, I'm going to use another measure. Let's call this average age now. And for this, I'm going to use again average X. The table I'm going to iterate over is employee table. And the date difference formula will be applicable now from the date of birth. Instead of date of joining, now I'm going to use another formula called today, which gives me the date as of now, as of today. And I'm going to use the interval as year, close the bracket for date difference, and then close the bracket for average X. We can put this value in the table visual and see that the average age of employee is now given in this calculation as well. So this is how you can calculate the difference between two dates, and you can slice the data according to your requirement and based on the attributes that are available in the data model. There is one another way we can use this formula and we can get more information about the entire data set in form of a table. Let me show you how. I am going to create a new table in which I will call this table as age, min, max. We are going to use some variables here. Let's call the first variable as start date. And it can be minimum of the date of birth of the employee. Any date of birth, which is the minimum, would be our start date. End date would be the maximum date coming from the date of joining. And our return statement would be, we want to have a table. So we are going to use curly brackets. And the first row will be let's say number of years. And to calculate number of years, I'm going to use the date difference formula. My first date is start date, my second date is end date, and my interval is year. Close the bracket for date difference and then close the bracket for this row. Put a comma at the end, and we are going to select this row and then press Alt, Shift, and down arrow key to copy the line below, and one more time and one more time. Let's change the second line into number of quarters and change this year into a quarter. The third line will become number of months, and we will change this year into month. The last line would become number of days, and we can change this to a day. Let's remove this last comma. We don't need it over here, and close this table by putting in the closing curly brackets. And when we press enter, we'll have a small table which shows us the attribute of the entire data set in terms of the difference between the ages of employees from the date of birth to the date of joining in terms of years, quarters, months, and days. We can put this data in the visual as well. Let's put this value 1 and then value 2. We can increase the size. And there you have all the values of days, months, quarters, and years in terms of the range of dates between the date of birth and the date of joining of the employees. So this is how you can apply date difference formula very easily and calculate the difference between two dates and specify the interval that you want. I hope you would have enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.